So just before we start, I suppose from my point of view, I've literally just finished another call actually with one of our other training providers that obviously I've been working with for the last sort of couple of years. So really just did a quick review with them, and it's quite interesting to hear them how they're actually using sort of technology, because they took about a year to think. They wanted to sort of go beyond the workshop environment, and how do they develop that? Obviously they have a team like, so Chris was just talking about, with like coaches, facilitators, and really they wanted to try and bridge the gap of what they see was the next sort of emergence, where people talk about, I want to increase the engagement, so when I have the workshop, what happens after that? So they've done a really great program working with ourselves to not only look at it from the psychological element to it of training. This is a leadership organization, but what they've been able to do is use sort of the social collaborations, that way of bringing sort of, shall we say, the relevancy to the actual training, with obviously substituting that for when they haven't actually got a coach that's actually driving that workshop in front of them. And they had a really good success actually working with a large organization, that they've actually using the sort of the personalization of it, but also the collaboration. So they've actually got peer-to-peer. So when they're sort of sharing ideas, they can then really embed that basically into their programs. So again, that should be another little great case study for what we do in obviously health and training providers. But today, thank everybody for joining us. This is one of our series of blended stories that we actually deliver throughout the whole year, and we got some great guest speakers today, but more importantly, I'll probably pass over to my my colleague Jan to perhaps introduce yourself before we start.
Thank you, Paul. Good morning, no, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Jan, but you already figured out, and that's not important. What we talk about today is more important. Blended Stories is this monthly webinar that we've been doing, because we like to share, and actually it's not even us sharing, it's the community. So all of you sharing experiences, stuff you learned about within the training community and delivery of training. And we really like that part. And it really resonates, because we've been doing this since December now, these webinars. And every time there are more people registering and attending, so it really starts to resonate, which is great, because we as Immersive, we like to help training providers make impact, as we would say it. And Paul just gave a fantastic example of that on where that works. Now, one of the things of impact is, of course, immersive learning, and that's what we're talking about today. I would like to welcome Hannah Bailey from MX Reality, but Hannah will tell a bit more about what she does and how she does it. And I would also like to welcome Cary Davey from Elevana. Elevana is a training provider who works with us, has been working with us for quite a few years, and is very practical and has a great example of a use case. So this is not all theory. By the way, Hannah, I didn't think there was going to be theory anyway. However, this is really how does it work? We will have some questions for Hannah and Cary, but you as the audience, you will also have questions. First question from me to you is, put it in the chat. And second one is, Paul will keep an eye on the chat and the questions. Once questions come in, we might break into the conversation. This is very fluid. No particular structure in there. The first question, though, from me to Hannah, aside from introducing, actually, could you start a little bit maybe defining what we're talking about? AR, VR, XR, MX, what are all these terms?
Yeah, of course. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for inviting me. Pleasure to be on here. Looking forward to hearing some of your questions as well. So yes, the whole kind of XR, VR, AR MR kind of definition. I appreciate there's lots of R's out there coming out now, but just to sort of put some sort of clarification for those that aren't 100% sure, though, that's one of my questions to you as well. I suppose, as somebody that develops these sort of solutions, what is your understanding of that? And what kind of technologies have you come across already? But XR is kind of the term now that we use. That's kind of an umbrella term. That's sort of extended reality. So that kind of encompasses all the kind of virtual reality, augmented reality, mixed reality. So when we're talking about these technologies, we put them under the XR banner. We then move on to kind of the individual technologies themselves. So virtual reality, VR, that's your three-dimensional immersive kind of experience where you typically will put on a headset and then you'll be in that kind of environment. The augmented reality is where you would typically take a device, a mobile device, or it might even be like a Google Glass or something that you will wear. And then you will have the computer generated sort of elements and data sort of overlaid your environment. Then you've got mixed reality. So mixed reality is a little bit more of an advanced step up from augmented reality, and it kind of is a combination of VR and AR. So it has the overlays, but you also have a lot more sort of a wider range of interaction to that of AR. So you can actually get more involved in, you know, interacting with sort of assets and things. And that kind of is when you start looking at pieces of hardware such as the HoloLens and potentially the the Magic Leap as well. So you get a little more of kind of a fully immersive, but you're still very much in the real world. So that's kind of the key terms. Does that help clarify? Has anyone got any questions on that as well? I'd be really interested.
Excellent. Well, thank you. Questions will come into the chat. I'm sure they will. I would like to give the floor now to Cary, which is you're using AR. Was there a particular time frame that you started using it, or maybe a particular reason you started using it?
Absolutely. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for offering us the slot this afternoon. Yes, with our company, we are a training company, but we also interact with home buyers doing home demonstrations and handovers with them. Now, we digressed into AR when the pandemic occurred. Normally, our business is face-to-face all the time. Our training is face-to-face. Doing home demonstrations with clients, customers is face-to-face because we primarily work within the housing new homes industry. So we had to certainly change our structure overnight. Otherwise, literally, we would have gone out of business. Because obviously when the pandemic occurred, all face-to-face disappeared. So we got a system on board so that we could do the home demonstrations to the customers, obviously, you know, sat at home, looking through the viewer, the customer could see exactly what we were talking about. We've got the ability to annotate on it as well. For instance, if we were talking about the wall in a new property, and I know it sounds pretty boring to most people because it's a blank canvas, but actually to us it's very exciting because it's what's behind that wall that we need to explain to customers, how it's studied, if it's an external wall, and if we can have pictures where we're annotating to them. It's actually more beneficial to us than doing a face-to-face demonstration now. So quite a few of our clients have gone over to the augmented reality. They love it, and they will never go back to face-to-face home demonstrations as a result of how we are producing it across to them. So for us, it's been a life changer. It really has. And we're so pleased that the clients love it. And I can foresee in probably 10 years' time, there won't be any face-to-face interaction with customers anymore. Not like we are doing.
Oh, wow. That's That's quite the statement, Cary, there, right there.
Yeah,
we-
but look at the world and how it is changing overnight, you know, and we had to turn our business round literally within a week, because overnight we lost 100 grand's worth of business.
I think we just defined the relevance of this session. So thank you all very much for answering that. With regards to the next part of this, let's carry on here. What different learning applications? So we know now what AR, VR, XR is. Where do we apply it? Where does it fit best? Hannah, can I start with you there?
Yeah, of course. So, I mean, I think the thing is looking at the sort of skills and the training requirements. And I mean, we develop training sort of applications for different sectors. So whether it's oil and gas, construction, automotive, logistics, you know, the requirement tends to be, it can be for like technical skills. So it might be that you want to teach an employee parts of a product or a piece of equipment, and being sort of using the technologies like augmented reality or the mixed reality, you're suddenly allowing them to sort of interact a lot more with physical assets. They can rotate, pick them up, you know, it might not be the real thing, but you can actually recreate that. If it's something that is expensive, or it might be an asset that particularly is difficult to get hold of, you can suddenly provide that quickly and easily for someone. It might be more of a guided sort of step-by-step task that you want to see whether they've done training beforehand, and you actually want to see whether they can do a knowledge transfer. So you might have had some sort of provisional training to start with that they've done. It might be e-learning or something, or they've been in a classroom and done their training. And it's like, right, you've got the fundamentals, now go and carry it out. And you can put them in VR, for example. So you might put them into a virtual reality environment where they're in safety as well. So if it's something that potentially they could do where they could injure themselves, or even, you know, there could be fatalities, by putting them in a safe VR environment, you can see whether they've taken on board, and then they can actually carry out the task. It's also, you know, product knowledge. If you've got new products coming out and people need to understand more about that. I mean, we've developed lots of different training from, you know, for the rail sector. So being able to go on track safely, understanding how the signalling boxes kind of work. There's all sorts of different things. So it can be technical. You can do upskilling with it. So it's about taking kind of what the output is. So the traditional training that you're currently offering, it's about applying that kind of right sort of mixed reality or XR technology that's really going to give that engagement as well to the end user.
Hannah, this just brings me on to the point. One of the things that we do in the online element to it is something called like space repetition. So what it is, I'm trying to put it into the context here, but say like, I'm a doctor in disguise today, sort of thing. So for me, what it is very much about my procedural mastery of a particular skill and everything like that. So in our world on the online, we do this sort of thing called like space repetition, which literally the learner sets the frequency of information that's sent to me. So basically you're addressing like the forgetting curve in skills development. Have you got something similar that you have in the world of that, more of that immersive element, to help obviously with skills fade and everything like that? Perhaps just an example, sorry, just come off the top of my head.
I mean, yes, I'm just thinking, going through the catalogue, there are many things that we've done. We've developed quite a few different applications. Knowledge transfer, and also that captures, so with an aging workforce in a lot of the sectors that we sort of provide our learning programs for, there is that about sort of doing that repetitive for the new kind of generation coming up. And yeah, we've covered off quite a lot sort of in manufacturing, particularly when there is perhaps a process that they have to do. So changeovers, for example, if you're working in an environment where the changeover is very key and they have to get that procedure right, because in manufacturing, every kind of second counts. And again, sort of doing something safely. So being able to do something over a period of time to ensure when they actually get to that end point if it's something that they do. So we work with utilities, for example, making sure that when they're actually out digging up a road and they're going to actually hit a gas mains, that they've actually done it enough times that they actually remember. If they're doing something sort of periodically as well, so periodic asset maintenance checks, where they're not doing it day in, day out, it might be that it's a 6 monthly check and they need to then suddenly recall, what do I need to do to have a look at this asset?
Yeah, perfect. Just while we talk, we've got a couple of questions coming through, and so we just want to intersperse it here as well. So Janella, my apologies on the pronunciation there. Would you like to bring your question to life and obviously just present that to everybody on the session today?
Hi, it's Janelle, but nice try.
I thought my version sounded a lot posher.
I pretty much answered to anything. Was it the one about the body language or the feeling claustrophobic? Which that one, because I asked a couple. So I do a lot of leadership training. I do a lot of employment law training, soft skills. So I've transferred a lot to Zoom. And actually one of my delegates is also on this call this morning. I was just doing some employment law. I miss picking up the body language. Be able to read somebody more easily, be able to have a conversation over coffee, all of that kind of thing. So that's part of it. But also I was thinking, do some people get claustrophobic using the equipment, or can they react? You know, if somebody, for example, like strobe lights and people can react, do sometimes people have issues if they're using this equipment that means that we have to check on their health and safety? So there's 2 bits. We'll choose whichever bit you want.
Okay, well, I can jump onto both of those. So around the sort of soft skills and the nuances of being able to read people, that's something that years ago was quite challenging because of the just kind of the characterization and avatar of people. The technology wasn't there. We've since moved on, and actually being able to create people and do that subtlety of facial expression and give that is now very popular. There's a firm out there called Tailspin that's very well known for doing it, and body swaps, and we've done it ourselves. So there's quite a few companies that do offer that very soft skill based VR training, and that's something that we include as well. We're doing a big cultural thing at the minute, diversity. So that is actually a very key thing at the moment. With regards to about claustrophobia and the feelings that you get when you're actually in the experience, as a human being, if you're scared of heights outside, if you suddenly go into a VR experience and you're on top of a roof, you will bring that fear with you. I mean, we have roofing, so solar PV roofing, and when you stand on top of the roof, people that don't like heights don't particularly like that feeling. And again, when you do confined spaces, so you will still bring all those kind of emotions into the training. So you have to set up the training environment just to account, like you would anything, you sort of have to do a bit of a safety check to say, are you scared of heights? Because you may feel that when you're in this experience, you're going to still feel that fear.
Perfect. Good. Back to you, Jan.
Thank you.
No, and actually, back to the practical side of this, Cary, is this? I know that the AR experience you've been using might not be that immersive with goggles on, if I'm correct.
Correct.
Or do you get feedback from learners that say, not sure about the feeling it brought me, or practical things you ran into with learners?
Well, no, because we are dealing with the public as such. And somebody who is moving into their new home, they want to know how everything works in there. So the way we are doing it is through technology, obviously iPad or phone, iPhone, whichever. So the customer hasn't really got to worry about being claustrophobic or anything like that. And it's always a one-on-one basis that we are doing as well with these home demonstrations. So we focus on the customer, and it's very personalized in what we do, because we know details about that customer beforehand, so we can tailor everything to them. The feedback we get is it's tremendous. People absolutely love the way it works. And it's so easy for them to ask questions without feeling stupid as such, like some people do when you're face to face with them. They want to, you know, they don't want to ask a question because they feel, oh gosh, you know, that's a stupid question. But with the AR system that we are using, the feedback, as I say, has been absolutely tremendous. People love it. I think we've only had, in our time over the past 3 years using it, one person that didn't like it, and that was a very elderly person who found phone technology a little difficult. But most people absolutely adore what we're doing.
So
Thank you for that.
yeah,
Sorry,
perfect.
Paul.
Yeah, I'm just going through some of the questions as well. I mean, I think from my perspective, I think Mel, you brought up the question really about anyone using XR in data and digital marketing routes as well. So again, Mel, would you like to bring that that question to life and talk through it for us as well, please? My apologies, I can't hear you, Mel. I don't know if that's just me or everybody. I don't know if that, can anyone hear Mel? Yes or no?
No, unfortunately
No.
not. I
Okay.
did see you unmuted, but maybe.
What I'll do, Mel, I'll just read that your question out just for the purpose of the session today. So has anyone used XR in data and digital marketing routes? So I've got some experience around that, but I think really from a marketing perspective, I think, you know, what Cary was talking about, that's really marketing the building and how they've actually used it and the different assets in there. Hannah, have you got any ideas or sort of suggestions about that, obviously from a marketing perspective?
I mean, I think that the great thing when you do move anything into technology is that you do get that ability to capture data.
Yeah.
One of the great things around using these technologies for training is that you can actually track users. And you said earlier, Paul, about head movements. You can see where people are looking. That still translates into marketing. You're still going to be able to capture user interactions, and the more sort of business intelligence you've got around kind of interactions, the more you're able to target your marketing around that and use that. Yeah. Unfortunately, we can't speak, so I don't understand the context. No. But actually, you know, the fact is that we do a lot of, so we do sort of take some of the VR digital twinning and we capture data and we replicate that into visualizations for some of our clients, and that's taken because that's one of the things that they want. So data is a really key part, and I think that's a great topic to have brought up, because actually that really can help with your training or with your marketing, because you've suddenly got a source of information that previously you didn't have access to or didn't even have any visibility on.
Yeah, I mean, some of the examples I've seen is, say, like if I'm going into a clothing store and obviously I saw this lovely shirt type of thing, but then I can use the AR and actually put it on myself, obviously get that visualization, get that sort of that mirror. What do I look like, and did I really make the right choice, or is it the right fit for me as well? But obviously I've seen it as well from a data perspective when they do testing in layouts in the retail industry. So I think me and Hannah were just chatting beforehand that a lot of the sort of the, should we say, the stores will send people in to do the research and what catches their eye when they got certain products at different heights, different levels, the layout of it as well. And then that's how then they can then sell more of the products that they need to sell, depending on price or how much stock they need to get rid of as well. So it's about using that data. But not only that, I know that there's another loop is then when I do go back through the store again, it's Paul again, he's looking for that shirt. So you can actually direct that person again to sort of those sort of assets, should we say, of using the data for the benefit of obviously the consumer in some respects. So that's good.
Well, talk about the data side. 2 points. Mel, I did see your note on how to use it more in a training environment. Within a training environment, the use of data, of course, is very important. We like that part, data. We like an evidence-based approach, as we would call it. Also with regards to training impact and how people are learning. By the way, I'll make this immediately an invitation to anybody on this call. We are doing more and more research on that, actually. We've got a partnership with, for example, University of Oxford, who is doing a partnership with us, blended learning adoption research. So, but we're also looking for other projects on training impact. And this is a perfect example because there's a lot of data being gathered here. So this should be very good for training impact research. With
Can I
regards,
just add? Sorry, I
Yeah,
was just
yeah,
going to,
please.
sorry to interrupt. I was just going to
No.
add, because in the programs that we develop, we actually do, all users are tracked, and all that data is how you score those individuals on their actual training to make sure that they're proficient at what they do. Because you have to have, if you're translating and bringing training into the virtual environment, you have to still be able to make sure that what they've, the output is still, that they can get to that qualified level and that competency that they need to achieve. So we can track every single movement, every single interaction, every single path they take. And then you can, the great thing is you replay that back to them. So you record it almost like a video. So you can sit down with them out of the VR experience, or you can join them in the VR experience. So there is an opportunity for that collaboration of a trainer to go in with that individual and re-go through exactly, say, well, this is the path you took the first time. Can you see any areas for improvement? And all that can then be captured and put into an LMS as well. So that's how we keep track. I just thought I'd add that, that's all.
Excellent. Yeah, no, and that's that actually makes a good point, because if you're talking about AR and VR as a one of the building blocks, one of the modalities in a learning journey, where there are lots of different modalities. So I would immediately use the term blended learning. It's part of the blend, and the data in there and also the tracking afterwards of the training impact is of course a great point. With regards to there were some other questions, I think, Paul, from the audience as well.
Yeah, Luke, I mean, I know you been participating with a couple of questions, so do you want to bring one of those to life? I mean, there was obviously a theme, people were talking about cost and everything like that, but I always believe, well, what's the business case? But Luke, do you want to bring some of your questions to life?
Yeah, a couple of them have already been answered, but one question was, is there sort of companies out there that already have this software that hire and lease the software and the equipment and the hardware, or is it something that us as businesses have to develop and invest in to be able to sort of use this technology?
So, okay, so I can pick that one up. So there's a bit of both there. I mean, that's a good question. I think it depends what the requirement is. There are now quite a lot of sort of programs available. So companies like ourselves have been developing sort of, you know, VR, AR apps and learning programs that are licensed that people can then just go and buy a license for to use. And that kind of has been building over the last couple of years. And I think, you know, colleges, universities, training providers, there's a real kind of increase of that material available out there now. But also, you know, if you require something quite specific to your own customers' needs, that's going to probably be something more bespoke and need to be developed. But I will touch upon slightly on the cost, because I know it's always a popular question that everyone does have. I think the thing is, because there has been quite a lot of development over the past few years, I mean, for us, we've been developing virtual environments for nearly 20 years. So if you imagine the resource we have now available, we're not starting from scratch. And like a lot of other companies out there that offer a similar service to us, you'll find that they'll have typically quite a lot of things around health and safety that have been quite asked, that are quite common. So when you put together a sort of a learning scenario, or you're building out, you know, a particular training package, a lot of the elements are already there, they already exist. So it's, I always say, think of it a little about web development when you're getting your website done. I think it's kind of in that vein now. It's not quite so big and scary on the kind of the cost. And actually the ROI you get is kind of quite considerable. So the investment probably a few years ago was a lot higher. I think Cary covered it quite well. The pandemic and the requirement that people had to kind of carry on with business during the lockdown, they were looking at our sort of technologies, and what that's done is that's accelerated them. So hardware's come down in price, development costs have come down quite considerably. So I don't think they're quite the big scary price tags that they used to be.
Yeah.
Actually, bringing that to Cary, is there a cost for your learners to download the app on their phone, or is there another cost that they have to take into account, or for you as a business?
No, nothing at all. I mean, we've got the software yes, it's not bespoke. Okay, it is off the shelf as such, but all we have to do is just send a link to the customers, and they can just download the system onto their phones, onto their iPads, and they can immediately link into us. But obviously it's a unique reference number and things like that, but there is absolutely no cost to them whatsoever. But then it's not quite as advanced probably as some of the VR systems that Hannah's got, but certainly for what we are doing with home buyers, it's an excellent feat. It's works, but obviously we're always looking to expand it to make it different, because it's great being able to download you know, a PDF onto the system and show the customer something, but it's also about thinking about taking it to that next level now as well.
There's another element to cost, by the way. It's not just the price you pay, it's also the time you spend. That brings me to skills. What do I need to be able to do to actually create maybe assets, AR, VR? So what skills do I, as a training company, what do I need to have, do those kind of things? Hannah, let's start with you.
So I think for me, it's about actually finding a good partner to work with, somebody that's probably got experience working on sort of more of the learning side of looking at using these technologies, because we've mentioned marketing, and there are companies out there that develop sort of VR, AR apps, but they may not quite understand sort of putting that together as a learning program. So I think that's kind of important. But I think it's just making sure that you define your goals and objectives. So you come to whatever company you're going to work with, make sure that, you know, it meets the needs and the requirements of the customer. And then it's training how to use that platform. So it's all about engagement and getting them to actually buy into the technology, because that's the thing, you want them to actually use it. It is actually, once it's adopted, easy, but there's sometimes just a barrier that needs to be removed, or reticence to actually take that sort of first step with regards to, you know, this is new, will we like it, will our customers like it? But having worked and doing it for many years, I've sat in rooms with people in hard hats and things with their arms crossed looking at me going, you're not going to get that on my head. And I tell you, by the time that sort of within an hour or so, they're down the shop buying the next Oculus Quest. So yeah, I think it's all around working in partnership. And at the end of the day, it's for you to really define your requirement. You know, you're the ones delivering the training. You're the ones that need those outcomes. The people developing the technology are the specialists in that area. So that's why it's a really good collaboration and teamwork, I think, that needs to come together.
Cary, did you internally, I'm sorry, Paul, I apologize. Cary, did you internally have to learn a lot to get this up and running?
Not overly an amount of time, but obviously it was more challenging for the end users, the customers, adapting to this new way of looking around their new home. I mean, we've got quite a young team of people, and once we'd found the right system for us, then it was obviously making sure that they were trained up on it, but it was also more about educating our clients and their customers in this is a new way of doing it, you know, and gently putting them into it, and spending a lot of time with our clients as well, in introducing them to it so they could actually see it, videoing in the whole thing. So, you know, this is what your customer is going to see. So they had to make sure that it was right for their customers as well.
Okay, thank you. Paul, I'm sorry for interrupting you earlier, please.
No, but what I was just talking about, we see with the challenges, and the best way I can relate to it is when we looked at going online, more engaging obviously online, and it's then they're taking the instructors, because the instructors saw that, well, no, I deliver face to face. And I know that obviously around managing behaviors and cultures in businesses as well, is getting everyone buying into the vision that you actually have as leaders in your own businesses. So we saw the same challenge, obviously, where if you're taking traditional learning, which is face-to-face workshops, and then putting things online, because you need to replace the interaction, the engagement. But people see it, well, that's how I've done it when I've done it face to face. Yeah, but this is not face to face. This is a new way of doing things. And I think I've seen the same challenges with AR, VR into certain sectors. But there's now, you know, there's some great user cases, obviously in the healthcare, around health rehabilitation. You've got the fire service now using it, education of persons, confined space working at height, you know, so there's some great user cases. But I think it's like now, are we getting to the point that it was something that was special, it was a high cost, as Hannah was mentioning. Now we're seeing now that it's more accessible, and the value return is so much greater because the costs have come down. But it's now thinking about it, and I encapsulate the XR VR very much more about that whole sort of the learning 3.0, where it, you know, we've had those transitions from face to face, we've gone online, we're doing social collaborations, personalization, and now with the, so we'd say the XR element to it is how that comes together as a very powerful package that training organizations, providers actually looking to engage. And now I believe it's more accessible, and there are different ways of doing it through our experiences. I mean, I've had the pleasure of working with Hannah, sort of thing. So we've both gone through those sort of challenging points. But I think now is the time to grasp the nettles, take a bit of a sting, but the benefits outweigh the pain now. And I think it's great. I mean, I look at the statistics, obviously from like Gartner or something like that, you know, it's £1 trillion business sort of thing. Well, let's not get too carried away. Let's get the basics right, which is basically talking about training impact. And I think that's the critical thing for me. It's not boys and toys. We've gone past that phase. It's about now, what are the business values, and make sure we've got a very strong business case. And I know my role has been very much, yeah, love it, give me the business case, and then we'll get that developed for you, or we'll talk to partners such as Hannah to bring those sort of those aspirations to life in a very much an immersive experience. So yeah, so I'm conscious of time, Jan, but we're happy to take any more challenging questions in the time available. But if you've got any other thoughts, just obviously when we start to sort of wrap this up, because I know people think, actually, I'm going to go for lunch in a minute, but is there any key things that anyone wants to contribute to this? Because it is, you know, a good opportunity. You've got great people in here that we can share different experiences. Any other questions or anything like that, Jan, from your point of view, or anyone else in the room?
I think we need to leave it to the audience. I like the point of price earlier, and well, like the point of price, it always comes up. So with regards to cost here, there is always an element, a lot of new technologies. I see a lot of new players coming up who have different business models, the hiring of, actually on the headsets, I was talking to a Belgian company the other day, and they said, well, we have those, what is the Microsoft HoloLens?
Yeah.
And what they were running into was that people were using it constantly, putting it up on their heads, and they were actually quite fragile. So they had to modify the headsets to make them stronger, which was a cost. So there is these things to...
So I suppose at the point, I think for our guest presenters, perhaps I always like to ask them, what one bit of nugget of information would you like to share with everybody on this room today? So I'll leave that to our guests. Hannah, would you like to go first? What real nugget of information would you like to leave for everybody? Obviously we all remember you because we know who Hannah is, but what key thing would you say to people as a good takeaway from today's session? I appreciate it's only a short jump into this today, but
I would just say start small. You know, you don't have to do everything all at once. You don't have to convert everything into some kind of immersive technology. There are apps available out there. Have a look, see what's already available on the market, you know, see what you can potentially buy a license for, just to you know, dip your toe in the water, and then start doing it that way. That doesn't have to completely replace face-to-face. You can enhance face-to-face by bringing something, you know, an AR app like Cary has mentioned. Start small if that's the way, the path that you want to take. See it as a phased approach rather than an all or nothing, and don't be put off by cost, because actually the costs aren't as high as they used to be.
Okay,
Thank you so much.
And Cary, what's your last piece of knowledge you want to give us?
Well, I would agree with Hannah there, absolutely. You know, start small, and don't be afraid, I think, is one of the key things. A lot of people are frightened of technology and what it's going to do, but trial it. Go out there and don't be afraid. That's what we did, and it expanded as a result of that, and now it's a core part of our business.
I think that sums it up quite nicely.